Hello and welcome to another episode of Invisible Walls. My name is Ryan Stevens. Today I am joined by Benjamin Moore. And Marcus Beer is back after a brief hiatus.
Klatu barada niktu.
Whoa. Heavy. Oh, is that Day or Stood Still or Evil Dead?
Evil Dead.
Okay.
He actually, Klatu barada.
I said it mainly correct.
Yeah.
Today we are going to discuss one of my favorite things, but probably not in the best way, and that would be story in games. And this is because Beyond Two Souls came out. Also, young Ben over here got to check out, and I think he actually was able to complete the BioShock DLC.
You were correct,
at an event. That is my name. And at this point, I wasn't sure if it was going to happen, but we can also talk about the first Fable game. Or sorry, it's not Fables at all in the title. It's just Wolf Among Us, right?
But it's set within the Fables universe,
which is a DC Vertigo comic.
Which is awesome. I'm recently introduced to that via the Pop Culture Class show, and I've got like 11 books so far. And
wow. Yeah, I read the first trade. I could never get into it, but I like the idea. I like that stuff. But first off, and I believe you've definitely played it, and I believe you brought it home. I have completed it. I don't know how far you got, and that would be Beyond: Two Souls.
Beyond the colon. That's quite right, actually.
David Cage's latest seminal work, and I'm sure you can make a joke there, featuring the acting of Ellen Page and Willem Dafoe, which I keep wanting to call him William, but I get that wrong. I've had my say. I stand behind it as an experience that is flawed, but has some shiny bits that I like. It's kind of like playing an interactive CD-ROM from 1993. Being a poltergeist is kind of fun, but wears down a bit. But let me open it up to you, Marcus. I know you have...
you know how much love I have for David Cage.
Or vitriol.
Actually, I don't have any vitriol. And actually, I talk about this on Annoyed Gamer tomorrow. I've sort of, over the summer, I've had discussions with people, and I've sort of like switched my mindset up a little to be more open. And I don't have a problem with people liking Beyond Two Souls. Just because their opinion's different to mine is not necessarily wrong. And for me, I went in with, believe it or not, an open mind. And I played it. I probably put, 5-6 hours in, maybe 7, and it just got a little boring for me. So many things added up. I mean, there's one shining point in the game for me, one section that really sort of like hints at the greatness that the game, based on the rest of my experience, never really fulfills.
I'm curious.
It's the scene where young Ellen Page is going to the birthday party.
Oh, the Carrie scene.
That's the scene.
The Carrie scene. And anybody who hasn't seen Carrie, there's a remake coming out of it with what's her name from Kick-Ass 2?
Hit Girl.
Hit Girl, Chloe Moretz. And it feels, you begin to think, wow, this has got some potential, because you do get to, play around with Aiden and be a very naughty person. And that to me is like, okay, so if they're going to build on this, this is great. I'm looking forward to learning more, because it comes on quite early in the game when you're still kind of like in tutorial mode. And that to me was really interesting. But then after that, it kind of followed it up then with the scene where, you've escaped off the train and you've just come off the motorcycle in the town. And you're basically pinned down.
And you kill a bunch of dudes.
Well, that's the thing. The limitations start to come in. It's like I saw the best of it in that birthday level. When you're playing with Aiden, is this poltergeist who can, or demon, or whatever you want to call him. You can do stuff with him like smash windows and pull stuff down and possess people, but you can only smash and pull and possess those which David Cage lets you smash, possess, and pull.
And that's why I said it's a CD-ROM from 1993 with hotspots.
And that is one of the game's two biggest failings for me, is that it's his world. You're just watching and button pressing every now and again. The other thing I have an issue with is the control system. And, I do like the way that, you pull back on the sticks and let go to activate some of the powers, because, you do feel that, that kind of works. But I would honestly, when it comes to the combat scenes in particular,
You mean like like the cover system and
Yeah,
kind of shooting and kind of takedowns?
that would that I'm the if they had gone the extra yard and said, you know what, we're going to put the more traditional control system in, and let you do this on top of that, I think that would have elevated this game beyond, pardon the pun, anything that we would have
No,
we could have hoped
I
for.
completely agree. When you're so used to that vocabulary of stuff, like, taking cover and shooting, and it's replaced with something it's one step in the right direction, but that one step, it actually makes it worse. Instead of keeping it kind of within the realm of what we're used to, this kind of quasi half-baked thing comes across as half-baked because it is. But I'm sorry, Ben, anything you wanted to throw on the carry scene or anything in general?
Yeah, you brought this up in your review, and I think it's my personal biggest problem with Beyond is even if they made the cover system better and even if they made it more fun to play, I actually found like pulling back with Aiden, and I don't know why it's not Aiden, but it's Aiden, and that drives me
I'm
crazy.
going to
Yeah,
call him Aiden.
we had to replace
Yeah,
all of Brandon Jones's VO for the review at the last minute
I'm
because
calling
of
him
that.
Aiden.
it's way better. I wish it was Aiden.
We'll blame the
But
French.
when you pull back the sticks with the ghost guy, you have to do it so many times that rather than making me feel like I'm doing it, it just becomes kind of tiresome. But yeah, even if it did all of the mechanical things better, the story is just completely incoherent. Like it's built upon moments, and it's not congealing into anything
Did you finish it?
remotely relatable. No, I haven't
Oh,
finished it.
okay.
I'm only a few hours in, but
No, it's a David Cage story. It escalates at a certain point out of nowhere, and I think it kind of hides itself by vignetting itself throughout by these
mm,
little time slices, which seems interesting. But the juxtaposition of them seems somewhat random,
yeah.
and also Ellen Page being a very short person, and Jodie as well. I was very confused, even looking at the timeline without like really studying it. Maybe this is just my bad, but there were certain points where I didn't realize she was like an adult. I thought
It's the
some
it's
of
the
her
hair.
some of those runaway scenes, I thought it was teenager, and I didn't realize until the picture got more filled in that, like, oh wait, no, this is actually her as an adult
Yeah.
at this point. Um, yeah, it's I think it's I haven't played Omnicron, but out of Fahrenheit, Heavy Rain, and this is I think the lesser work. I do want to bring it up one more time. I do think the acting is good, is very good, and it sells some of the
Ellen Page
weaker
is great.
lines.
No,
Yeah.
I think the acting is fine. I mean, some of the tech. I mean, and David Cage has talked about the tech in the past. Some of the the facial tech is really is really quite great. Um, but then there's also it's that also in itself is uneven because there are some sections where you see cars driving or you're driving a motorcycle or whatever, and it feels like an early era PS3 game and looks like an early
Well,
era
I heard a
PS3
really
game.
interesting comment, I think, from Tim Schafer, who made a lot of adventure games, which were not very reflexy. And someone asked him why a lot of like LucasArts games and other games, at the end they kind of throw a little screwball, and there'll always be like a little weird last little thing, the last little puzzle. And he's like, the whole game you're pointing and clicking. We always want to kind of end on a high note, making you. Not just adventure games, a lot of games do this. Think of Kid Icarus at the end when it becomes like a shooter at the end. I know that's a kind of old one, but there's others that I'll try to think of. But it's that kind of that idea where they want to try to give you more. Like the first time I rode the motorcycle, I'm like, oh, but the whole time, I mean, I'm gonna just crib from myself. I never really felt like an actor. I felt like I was, kind of like coloring in the lines, more like I was, paint by numbers more than anything else.
Almost a puppeteer.
And there was no consequences. What I loved about you can make choices. I'm not saying the game's devoid of choices, but like in Heavy Rain, the character deaths actually mattered. Some of them you had to really work hard to have the character die, but then the game would continue. That was interesting from a kind of an interactive narrative experience. Here, I remember failing every single like thing in a combat thing, and like Aiden comes in and saves the day. You get to see kind of an outcome, but the consequence of it seems really, really minor.
And that's where I come back to you. You say you can make the choices, but the choices are so cosmetic. And I
It's
think
hard to see how they ripple, especially with the time going back and forth.
it feels at times like I'm playing a sci-fi movie, Sci-Fi Channel original movie of the week with a really great cast, but everything else is kind of.
But Debbie Gibson's not in it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's a really great cast. No Tiffany, no Debbie
Flying
Gibson,
sharks.
no John Schneider or anything like that. But it's muddled. It really is. And this kind of story should be right up my alley. I mean, I do like the the
Did
supernatural.
you like it at the beginning? I thought it started strong. I'm gonna say I think it started pretty strong, playing the ghost in the beginning, but then you see the seams. Again, I think I took that from my review, but you start seeing like, oh, I can do this, I can ping this. Being the ghost is kind of fun, but it's like wash, rinse, repeat, and again, and same with the kind of the more
Well,
gameplay attacky sections.
it's also a little bit confusing in that the tether. It's the tether between the girl and Aiden. Uh, the tether seems to increase and decrease
Oh yeah,
depending on the level,
yeah, no,
and
totally.
because in that first experience,
What I call the embassy party, I don't
Yeah.
really know what it is. That was actually a fun scene to play through, and it was funny because they kind of packed what could have been more gameplay elements into that one, distracting the guard, her trying to not get caught and stuff in the girls' room. I actually thought that was one of the stronger individual vignettes.
Well, that, like I said, that and Carrie, really sort of like got me interested. It's like, this is a strong start, and let's see if they can build on this. And that's the problem. I don't think they built.
Going off what we did with GTA last week, a couple weeks ago, any movies or books that for people that are interested in Beyond Two Souls? The tether thing reminds me of His Dark Materials, which I won't get into, but really cool book, awful movie with Nicole Kidman, Golden Compass. I kept referencing Howard the Duck, but I was joking. But
I'd actually look.
oh, and From Beyond with like the pineal glands opening up, awesome horror movie from like the 80s.
Poltergeist.
Yeah, very literally.
The original Poltergeist, I thoroughly recommend. Obviously, yeah, Carrie is a perfect example. And it's almost as if it's almost like Carrie. The day after the movie ends, what happens with Carrie? Oh, she gets conscripted. She goes in the CIA. She becomes this agent. I mean, it's almost like that's what you would expect Carrie 2 to be. And
Carrie 2 was very good.
The Rage Carrie 2, give it a full title. But yeah, it's a missed opportunity. I'm not saying it's an awful game. It's not for me. I could see the potential in it. I think it's about time he stops taking all this money and just goes off and makes a couple of movies or TV series or whatever he wants to do.
He's gonna finally get it with the PS4. Don't worry. Ben, any final thoughts or any
You were just
literary references?
You were talking about
books?
choices, and you were talking about the party scene, and it made me think. During the party scene, I don't know. You're like what, 16 maybe? You're a teen, or
I think maybe a
you're
little
like-
younger.
Okay, a little younger.
Oh,
than that.
the birthday party.
The
Yeah,
birthday party.
the birthday
Okay, yeah,
party,
you're like 12, 13 maybe. I don't know. You're young, and there's this boy there that you can meet at the party, and depending on how it goes, you may or may not kiss him, and there's kind of like this romantic scene. But you said you can make choices, but they're not really meaningful, and the floor got the rug got pulled out from under me because immediately after that things go really bad, and it's really jarring, and it doesn't make sense, and it's like, wait,
Did
clearly
you kiss the boy and then he turns on you?
right, and it's just the way he turns on
You
you and the
romantic,
way
you.
the scene goes. It's like this is the, like, if it went bad it would go this way, and if it went good it would go this way. And like you said, you're seeing the seams, and I think that's super frustrating
Yeah.
because I think it de-emphasizes your role as a player, and it makes you wonder, why am I doing this in the first place?
And one final thing, and I'm going to segue actually maybe to Wolf Among Us, in kind of like The Walking Dead and the Telltale games. There's a part in the review where I refuse to take a cup of coffee, and I refuse to take the cup of coffee for 7 minutes. We show it for like 10 seconds in the review, and nothing happens. It's the only choice you can do.
Yeah.
Games do this a lot, but I feel like we are in a post-Walking Dead world, and this game acknowledges one last thing on Beyond Two Souls is there are dialogue choices and things, and they will fade away and kind of make you go to default, just like how Lee in The Walking Dead would usually default to silence, right? If you didn't choose anything, and people would respond to that. And with that, do you feel like Wolf Among Us is evocative of Walking Dead, or is it more like a traditional Telltale game with more of like, out and out puzzles like a Sam and Max or
It's
Bone?
much more similar to The Walking Dead than it is to something like Sam and Max or some of Telltale's earlier works. But I think a big mistake that a lot of people are going to make going into The Wolf Among Us is they're going to be not familiar with Fables or not really open to a new experience. They're going to be like, I want The Walking Dead Part 2. I want it to have that same impact immediately. And I think that's a disservice to the game, because what episode 1 does is it sets up the story and it sets up the characters, and I think it does a really good job of that. But because, we're 1 episode in, we have 5 episodes to go, you're not going to get those same emotional moments that you got in episode 5 of The Walking Dead, for example. So I'm a little bit worried that people are going to be disappointed
By the
based
first
on
episode.
that. Yeah.
Are you familiar with the source material?
No, after I played the game, I I liked what I was seeing so much that I did some research, but I've never actually read the comics myself.
So this is going to be kind of a leap. As someone who has read some of the comics, do you think there's ample fan service and it's done justice?
Um,
Like, will Marcus like it?
I think yeah, definitely. I think
Like,
if you're a
as a
fan of
fan.
Fables, you'll like it. There are meaningful differences from the comic books to the game, as far as I can tell. But in terms of it's not retelling the exact same story, but in terms of tone and presenting those characters, I think it does a really admirable job.
I just got one quick question, and I'm sure Marcus has a couple for you. Is it puzzly? Are there actual puzzles? Because I felt like The Walking Dead really pulled back on that. I still think the motel assault, as I called it in episode 1, was actually pretty fun and something to go through and kind of figure out your little MacGyver stuff.
Yeah.
And then the game, I think, kind of pulled back, made it more A to B.
Yeah, that's actually one of my biggest disappointments with the first episode is it's like those later Walking Dead episodes where it does feel A to B. I didn't have any moments where I felt like I was figuring something out. Multiple times, I think twice, you are sort of investigating this crime scene, and I thought it would have been a good opportunity for them to kind of make you piece things together, make you kind of think about things and figure it out. And they sort of weakly attempt that, but what it really ends up devolving into is you're sort of in this box and click on everything in the box, and all of that stuff is super easy to find. You know, it won't take you longer than 5 minutes. And so when your character, the big bad wolf or Big B, makes these like grand realizations like, oh, that was the connection, you don't feel it. You don't feel like the way he's responding to the situation and the way you actually did it don't line up. And I think like The Wolf Among Us, if you're going into it to have a unique game experience, it isn't very good, but I do love the world and I love the characters in it.
So I'd actually ask you, I mean, because obviously, yeah, there's no point me asking you questions about Fables because you don't know perhaps that expanded universe.
Mm-hmm.
But having just come from Beyond Two Souls
Mm-hmm.
and playing this, how does that stack up? Because again, they are similar. They are story-driven games. They're more adventure games. How does this stack up and compare to Beyond?
Beyond in terms of storytelling, it's much better than it is in Beyond because for Wolf Among Us, you kind of have this ridiculous premise as you do in the Fables comic books, where you have these fairy tale characters sort of hidden in New York City. They have to hide there for a bunch of different reasons that the game goes into. So you have these fantastical characters in the seemingly mundane world, but it's a lot more relatable than Beyond is because I felt like Beyond was always trying to outdo itself. In the 2 hours that I've played it, it always felt like for as much as David Cage harps on human interactions, it always felt really melodramatic. It always felt like it was trying too hard. You have that really kind of cheesy CIA sequence that is like an 80s action movie montage. But Wolf Among Us, I think when it works the best, it's just two characters talking. And they surprise you. It's only after you spend a significant amount of time with one of my favorite characters, Snow White, that she reveals something about herself that sort of catches you off guard and sort of plays with your expectation for what that character is. But you're just in a taxi cab, and you can tell that the main character, Big B, and Snow White kind of like each other, but it's kind of a little bit awkward and kind of a little bit flirtatious, and it feels, human. And I think the Wolf Among Us captures that much more than Beyond ever does because I think Beyond is always focused on trying to impress you, and it just doesn't really let it all sink in.
And I would say don't get put off by Snow White and Big Bad Wolf and Fables because this is not Disney.
Hey, that's actually a really good point because why I like Snow White so much is it barely reminds you that she's that character other than like she has these snowflakes on her shirt. And I think that's really cool. It's not always beating you over the head like,
Is she the
hey, this is
fairest
a
in the
preset.
land?
No, like
Well,
that stuff is really, really underplayed. Like it accentuates things rather than dominates them, and I think that's really smart of the game.
I mean, getting into the books, just reading that first trade paperback is just really cool because it does set up the entire universe. And I would actually say, go and read that the first Fables book because it does. People are like, oh, this is going to be Disney's and bunnies and stuff like that. No, these guys have been exiled from their homelands. They've been in New York for a couple of 100 years. They smoke, they drink, they shag. I mean, it is not. It's all. There's a section, an outpost called the Animal Farm, and it's not just a nod to George Orwell. It's actually really quite cool. So I would definitely say check out the Fable books as well, and then check this out. I can't wait to play it tomorrow.
And finally, I think you talking about the detective stuff. I think that also kind of evokes Gone Home a lot, where you're left to your own devices to
Yeah.
draw things out. But the final little story bit would be, I think, BioShock. What's it? It's Burial at Sea.
Burial at Sea, episode 1.
And you've played the whole thing, but they've released the first 5 minutes of the game, which is very I'm saying evocative a lot. It's very much. Did you not watch the first 5 minutes?
I haven't
thing?
watched the first
Oh, okay.
5 minutes now.
But it's it takes place in Rapture.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of talk that this is trying to be like the beach scene. It's going to try to be like the first 20 minutes of BioShock Infinite, where it's it's not combat based. It's much very like soaking in the environment. If that may be a pun, but what's your take of the opening, having been actually manning the camera, so to speak?
Yeah, definitely. It is almost exactly like seeing Columbia for the first time, in the way that the first hour to the hour and a half is structured in Burial at Sea, like to the point where it's almost a little disappointing, in the sense that like you get to explore Rapture and you get to see the citizens of Rapture, and it's in this pristine state. It's before the Civil War, it's before the fall, and they do have interesting conversations. Like there's this conversation between a religious man and a pimp, and they're sort of talking about sexual freedom, and it's really intelligent, and it's fun to listen to, but it kind of feels like it's all behind glass. Like you can't really go and insert yourself into the conversations themselves, and you can't really interact with these people. You're just kind of watching it and taking it all
Fly
in.
on the wall.
Yeah, and it all looks amazing, and then kind of immediately after that, you get into the combat, and it's like, okay, we're sort of done showing you what Rapture looks like. Let's fight some stuff, and it's a little bit jarring.
That's the problem I have with Infinite. Every
Yeah.
time you feel like you're just trapped behind glass. You're obviously a visitor. People, you can't jump in and interact and really build with people, and that's what the biggest flaw, apart from some of the combat issues.
And I think it's one of those things where you play a lot of games where there's the silent protagonist because it's supposed to be you. And I think when they gave Booker a voice, they made some conscientious decisions that you are borrowing his skin, but you're not really running the whole show. Even with the I know you can choose her like Elizabeth's cameo, and there's those choices that were in Infinite seem so interesting, even though in the end they were so minimal. Like I played the entire game with the bandage wrapped around my hand, which was such a nice touch, even if like narratively it wasn't a big payoff, because I got stabbed at the train station, I think. Generally impressed though, going back to Rapture, seeing it before the fall. Sounds like it.
It is. There's definitely some really good moments. I would say the scene with Cohen is really well done, and I think he's even more almost more terrifying in Burial at Sea than he was in the original BioShock, or at least kind of equatable in some ways.
Awesome.
Yeah. There are definitely good things about it. It is part 1 of 2, so take that as you will. I think after you play part 1, you will very frustratingly want to play part 2.
Can I ask one last quick question? Does it seem like this is one of the side possibilities, or does it seem like at some point Booker really, if you like in BioShock 1, Booker was actually there in the game we played that was the original BioShock?
The answer I have to that is in the ending of BioShock Infinite, which I don't want to spoil here, but interpolate from the ending of BioShock Infinite what you will. There are parallels to draw between Infinite and Burial at Sea.
I like it.
Well, you got a name, miss?
Elizabeth.
Welcome back. I guess that was like 4 seconds, but welcome back. We have a new guest. Marcus Beer morphed into Kyle Bossman, as that's a little secret we have here around the office.
Same person.
Yeah, different sides of the same coin. We're gonna talk about we all know Kyle likes funny things, Nintendo, Pokemon, jokes, funny jokes. But now he's gonna talk about one of his favorite things, which is surprisingly MOBAs. He's a big MOBA fan. He really wants that Pokemon MOBA to come true. He's been fawning over those screenshots, and Kyle went to the League of Legends Championship.
This is the
this weekend.
second episode in a row that you've introduced me after like a series of lies.
Series? No, I
Yeah.
think most of those things are true.
No, none of those things are true.
You don't like Nintendo and Pokemon?
I like Nintendo and Pokemon.
Oh, okay. But
No, I don't like MOBAs. I don't like MOBAs.
But you
Breaks
asked to
my
be on
heart.
this section of this show because you went with young Benjamin here
Yeah.
to the League of Legends Championship.
World Championships.
And you guys made a little video that's pretty awesome. And you guys wanted to talk about it. I'm going to kind of open the floor to you guys.
It was my first time kind of doing something like that where I hosted the video. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but
You hosted a video, yeah.
I learned a lot. I learned a lot about interviewing people on camera and what makes for good video and how to edit and how to be exciting. I tried. And yeah, all of that was really good. So I had a ton of fun making it.
But let me ask you, Kyle, why did you want to be on here to talk about this?
I want to talk about that event. So before like we got to actually see any competitors, they gave us like a media presentation for the media, and they said a lot of things that kind of surprised me. Firstly, that the game was designed as a sport first and foremost. Those two people sat down and like, let's make a game that's a sport, which was really incredible because they succeeded with that. Second thing, that they don't make money from that event, that they lose money streaming it and hosting it in Staples Center, and
Even though how much are tickets? They're like $20, $25.
I think more than that.
I think they're more than that.
75 to 100. Thank you, Chris.
$100. And so they
Chris
still
filmed it.
they still lose money doing that event. So I think those two things are interesting, and that's
Well,
kind of what I
what's the
wanted to talk
purse
about.
again? What's the? They win like hundreds of thousands of dollars, right?
They them in millions of
No, but just for that single event.
Oh, yeah,
I
they-
don't think they make $1 million at
No,
that.
no. The winners win over $1 million.
Oh, okay. For the whole team, though, right?
For the whole team, so they have to split it.
Jerks.
Take home ain't $1 million.
But so I guess another part of that media presentation, and Ben was there too. Ben watched this whole thing. Is the guy says, this game deserves this event, and I want to talk about that because I think it does. But it's weird to me if they're losing money to create the event is created. You know what I mean? More than it is necessary. And I wanted to talk to Ben about that, who loves League of Legends.
But not necessarily an esports guy.
I'm not an esports player. I'm not that good to be on that level, but I'm a fan of esports. I follow the teams. I
You do
enjoy
follow.
watching.
Okay, I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
was misinformed.
I spend. When you spend like 9 hours watching Street Fighter 4, like you've got a problem. When that's like most of your Saturday.
That's not a
So-
problem. No, that's great. Yeah.
I don't like real sports at all. Not saying that they're bad.
They're bad.
So thanks, Ryan.
Another secret about Kyle, he likes football.
I do like football.
Yeah.
I was thinking about doing a final verdict that is football is a better game than League of Legends.
That
Okay,
would be
so-
interesting.
Yeah.
I'm trying to I want to understand your question. So
Yeah.
you're saying
Can't jungle in football.
you think it does deserve the event, but why are they doing it if it's
No,
not
I get
making money?
I get why they're doing it. Like that
Okay.
makes total. They
So
have a
what's the
clear path,
question?
and I think that someday, it really will make a profit. You know what I mean? Someday they can sell tickets, and it'll be like an NFL thing, and they probably that will happen. Does that game deserve that event? Does that game earn it? You know what I mean? Is that game enjoyable enough to spectate, to earn Staples Center?
As someone who watches League of Legends, I think League of Legends has serious problems as a sport that Riot isn't addressing.
That's
And-
interesting.
This is just me trying to be as fair as possible because with a sport, when you have something like football or basketball, you know, the rules pretty much never change. Like there's some constants. Like if you shoot the basketball in the hoop and you're not past this line, you're going to make 2 points.
Yep.
And I think the thing that's really confusing about League of Legends is it really, unless you spend a lot of time in it, you can't watch it and enjoy it. And I've talked to multiple people in the office when they were watching my video, when they were watching me stream the championship, they would just say, what the fuck is going on? Like, I can't understand this. Like,
You
this
mean
seems
just-
this
and then-
seems cool, but I can't approach it.
In the game itself, in like a 5-on-5, and like people doing moves on each other.
Yeah.
I mean, you're
Yeah.
right.
Well,
It's-
I don't know. I mean, like what you were just saying, like, yeah, people understand you score a basket, you get 2 points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, I don't understand the infield fly ball rule,
Sure.
So you can see someone getting killed on screen and it will say, like, double kill. You can kind of understand that. I think it's more of the nuances, right?
Sure.
I
But,
think
like-
that's a good point.
Do the nuances matter?
But I think when you
Complexity.
kill somebody and you don't understand why they did it, like when I'm like, oh God, like Lux had a really cool ult there and she sniped somebody like all the way down here. That was really awesome. But if you don't understand that, you'll just be like, oh, they got a kill. Like
Yeah.
the impact is not nearly the same. And so I think you're going to be far less interested. Like if I didn't understand
The pageantry.
no, not the pageantry, the characters' moves and why they were good and like what items they're building up to, like all of that is there's more than 100 champions. There's like 140 or something. That's totally wrong. I'm sorry, but there's a lot of champions.
There's a lot, yeah.
Needless to say, and it's hard learning one. You have to spend a lot of time to get really proficient with one of them. And so I think when in an entire game, every single match, they're changing champions, you're like, okay, who's this guy now? What do they do? And you're constantly asking your friends, why is this item good? Like, there's just so much, and they haven't figured out a good way to present that to people who don't care about the game and invest them in it.
I think so. Like conversely, like with Street Fighter 4, very spectatable. Like
Yes.
anyone can watch Street Fighter 4. It's very clear. There's this person fighting this person, and something awesome happening looks awesome to the people who knows what's going on, and
Right.
the people who have no idea.
Right. Even if you don't understand the ridiculous combo, you
Yeah.
can see that dude punched that other guy like 40 times, and it
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
awesome. And
it's all seeable, right?
yeah.
That's another key point, I think. Counter-Strike's been played professionally for a long time, but your spectating's weird, or jumping from camera to camera is a little weird.
Right. Yeah.
A billion years ago, when I worked at G4 with actually Jeremy Hoffman, he was an intern on a show called Arena, and people would be playing, and then there'd be a bunch of people as the spectator cams being like trying to be in-game cameramans, and it was always so messy. And you cut it down to like a couple minutes.
yeah.
And the other side is like the original, I think, esport over in Korea was StarCraft,
Yeah.
which I think is maybe a little. Again, you're jumping all over the map and stuff like that, but maybe
Hard to
it's
spectate. Honestly, another hard
maybe
to
a little
spectate
easier
game.
to follow complexity-wise.
Yeah.
Because there aren't 100 different units. There's far less. I don't know.
I have two. I'm glad you brought that up. I have two things to say. One, kind of in relation to what we were talking about earlier, and then about StarCraft. It's interesting that StarCraft has taken off the way that it has in Korea, and there are television channels like that show StarCraft matches, and part of me thinks, and this is just total speculation on my part, that says a lot about American culture, where when we see something complex, we're not like, oh, I want to go and spend time figuring this out because it looks really cool. It's just like, nah, I don't, whatever.
Next. Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. That's funny.
So I think that's, I
That
think
is what Marcus just did. He said, "You're about to talk about League of Legends. I'm gone."
Yeah.
That is what just happened.
because
yeah.
it's like,
He's
I have
Welsh.
to put effort into this. No, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
the other thing is, and Riot said, I don't want to criticize Riot too much because what they said, and it's clear what they're doing right now, is they're trying to figure out the best way to present this stuff to people who already care.
Yeah.
And if you see the evolution from Season 1 of League of Legends to Season 3, the way that they've amped up their production, it's
Just
totally
crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's so much better now than it was a couple of years ago. And so I think they're just trying to get to this point where they're comfortable with that stuff. And then once they figure that out, they'll be like, okay, where do we go from here? How do we get more people in, and all that stuff? So I think they're taking it step by step, and they're being incredibly successful at it.
Yeah, I mean they are. It's just, I guess I hate to see the event propped up how it is when it's kind of just bankrolled by a lot of money.
Well, that's how a lot of things start. I mean, a lot of things operate at a loss when they.
Oh,
as-
yeah.
as
I mean, yeah,
operations.
that's very true,
that's just
actually, yeah.
Business.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a section of their business, but I mean, they are very. We know Riot is a giant company that makes one game, and they have to section themselves into smaller quadrants to make it work.
And another thing that I like that
Loss leader.
I consider investments what they're doing now, and I like that they're doing that. They are looking forward constantly, as opposed to an idiot mobile company like Draw Something, who's like, okay, we may draw something, we're good forever, and then
They're not the idiots. The people who bought them.
Yeah, they are the biggest idiots. Yeah,
So,
yeah.
That's where League of
Yeah.
Legends really holds up for me, is like it has become this enormously popular thing that's getting sponsorships with American Express and Coke Zero. And if you kind of take a cursory glance from the outside, you're like, man, this is just a fucking corporate bullshit. I don't want any part of this. But Riot, you spend any time with League of Legends, and I think it's pretty easy to tell that they care about the game. And it's so interesting on a mechanical level, and it's so satisfying. It's so much fun to play. Like, it is not a game that you'll play for a weekend and get bored of. It is a game that if you're like, I'm not playing any other games this year, you could just play that and be totally satisfied because there's so much to it. And although it's intimidating, I want more people to try it out. I want more people to see why it's exciting because it has a lot of qualities of Street Fighter, which we were talking about earlier, where you can do these super elaborate things that are really flashy and fun.
Yeah.
But you also get that sense of progression, right? Where the way you feel at level 1 in a 40-minute match and the way you feel at level 17,
Yeah.
that's such a cool feeling. It almost takes, something like, a Final Fantasy and puts that into a Street Fighter.
Now we can take down Baron.
Yeah,
I like that part.
yeah,
That's a cool moment.
It's really
Yeah.
cool, and even if you're doing bad, you still get that sense of progression, and it's really fun. And I think there's something to it. We just have to do a better job of explaining why that's cool, I think.
Finally, the moment you've all been waiting for. It's the cage match. This is we decided it's going to be David Cage in honor of Beyond Two Souls versus Johnny Cage, probably the most well-known Cage in video games. I would say I can't
That's
think
fair.
of anyone else. So
Luke
guys,
Cage, maybe?
who?
The superhero?
Nick
Luke Cage?
Oh, Luke Cage, the Power Man or whatever.
Yeah.
Nicolas Cage.
He was in zero video games.
He wasn't in Ghost Rider, like the Flaming Skull.
Oh, probably,
Could have
actually.
been him.
Maybe,
They
yeah.
licensed his skull. So, I have made a total of nine factors for both David Cage and Johnny Cage, and I'm gonna get your guys' take on these.
Cage match.
And cage match, and we're gonna, I'm gonna tally these up, and we'll see who is the better Cage.
The greater
at
Cage.
The end. Johnny Cage nationality. Johnny Cage is from America, home of the free.
Okay.
David Cage is from France.
We're judging people on nationality.
Yeah, man.
Definitely. Yes. Yeah.
American show. I do
So-
like cheese.
I feel like Johnny Cage represents the U.S. well.
No, he's like all of the worst parts of America.
The worst parts are the most representative parts of the Americas.
Yeah.
I feel like David Cage doesn't. I mean, David Cage, that sounds like a dude from like Brooklyn. Yo, I'm David Cage.
Hey,
Like
I'm
he doesn't
David
even
Cage.
sound particularly French.
Well, I mean, I guess we should first state that David Cage, that's not his real name.
What's his real name?
I don't know his real name, but he chose David Cage.
Yeah, so again, is he turning his back on his heritage?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I think for nationality, we're going to have to give it to Johnny.
Okay. Are you mumming this one?
I agree because Johnny Cage has that one fatality in MK9 where
Oh,
he
wait.
splits
Oh,
the
we'll-
dude's
yeah,
head.
you're
We'll get there.
jumping ahead.
Oh, wait.
We'll get to fatalities.
Actually, number two.
Sorry.
Well, number two is not the fatality. Number two is signature move. For Johnny Cage, I actually said it's the split crotch punch.
Definitely.
I think that wins already.
And
right?
well, David Cage, I think it's the shower scene. He has multiple shower scenes with nude digital actors in all of his games, pretty much.
Yeah. Which is a great signature move as well.
And I like water. It's warm.
I feel like
it's cold.
anything I say right now is gonna hurt my career for like the next 5 years.
Mission accomplished. So I don't know.
So I loved in I guess it was middle school. I loved that punch in the junk. That was the first time you could do that in any video
Does
game.
he have a
really.
sound effect?
Can I
type
tell
to
you?
that?
Yes. Can I tell you why the nut punch wins? Because it goes. "Oh."
Okay.
That wins. That has to win.
Did Liu Kang have a funny sound effect too when he did like the bicycle kick or something?
Yeah. That was like
Like a Xena sort of yell or
Yeah,
something.
Like
yeah.
no, yeah, never mind.
we'll just play it.
Well, I guess crotch punch is beating out shower scene.
shower scenes are nice. They're
So violence over nudity.
they're an easy way to show nudity without like sexualizing your character. You know, they don't have to be in a sexual
Can I-
position.
Tasteful.
Yeah.
Steam on the.
How do you
on the
feel
window.
about digitally? Never mind.
I honestly like
No sidebars.
true self out of this bit. I think shower scenes are real dumb.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree.
Unless
yeah.
you're revealing
yeah.
something.
There's
like,
multiple shower scenes in
Yeah.
Beyond Two Souls also, which is hilarious.
multiple? Oh man.
Best game. So I had both Mortal Kombat 2 and Mortal Kombat 9, the one that came out a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's probably up for debate for Johnny Cage, and I'm putting down Fahrenheit Indigo Prophecy for David Cage
Which was called Fahrenheit in the UK.
in the UK. They didn't want it to be tied to like Fahrenheit 9/11 or something.
That's funny.
America.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it to MK.
Which one?
I personally like MK2 a little
Okay.
bit better than MK9 because I feel like as good as MK9 is, it's just trying to capitalize on MK2, which is arguably the best. It's just trying to like, okay, we did all of that 3D shit in the PS2 and Xbox era. Let's go back to what made Mortal Kombat good. So I think kind of by default, MK2 is more meaningful to me. But anyway, the reason I said Mortal Kombat is because Indigo Prophecy doesn't accomplish what it wants to do. The last third of that game, as you probably know, goes completely off the rails, and so it feels like not exactly right. Whereas Mortal Kombat, regardless of how you feel about it, it is a game about blood and guts and doing cool things and ripping people to shreds, and it accomplishes that perfectly.
But it's not a good fighting game.
That's true.
That would be my thing. I actually think Indigo Prophecy was a pretty successful game for when it came out.
but-
And I'm the guy who likes All of Sunshine. I think all of Indigo Prophecy, and I realize I'm in the minority, is actually pretty excellent, and it has one of the strongest beginnings I've ever seen in the game.
So you're saying,
Kyle,
in
can you tie break?
in its genre, Indigo Prophecy is better than
Well,
Mortal Kombat.
completely,
in its genre.
completely subjectively, I like Indigo Prophecy better.
What are we talking about as a good fighting game? Are we talking like in that really
No, we
pretentious
can't
like?
sidebar. We're running out of time. Kyle, you're taking this too seriously.
I go with Mortal Kombat.
Okay, wow, Johnny Cage in
Is,
the
is a better game than
2
Indigo
or 9,
Prophecy.
just out of curiosity.
I like 9. I actually really like it.
You like the new stuff.
I love that story.
Skyward Sword.
I
The
love
story
that
mode
it's
is
got a story,
awesome.
yeah.
MK9 is great.
Accoutrement. Sunglasses.
Great.
French accent.
Ooh. This one I'll give to David Cage.
I will also give it to David Cage.
Okay, he's on the board. Okay, played by, we went with the digital actor after
Yeah.
the judges signed in. Daniel Pacina, who is a Midway guy, who
Yeah.
now is a martial arts dude.
I
and
think he
owns
has
the
like a dojo, yeah.
And David Cage is played by David Cage.
Ooh.
David Cage.
He does nail the role.
Yeah.
Okay, well my vote goes to Pacina because I think that guy's great, but it's 2-1. We'll go.
Yeah,
we'll
I'm
go to
sorry.
David
I
Cage.
mean, I think David Cage is like a
he
character
really nails
actor.
it. Really nails it.
A French Peter Molyneux.
I think my subject header here is a little weird, but I guess these are kind of in the same thing, kind of like technical call out thing. Digitized graphics for Johnny Cage or QuickTime events.
Digitized graphics. Absolutely.
Yeah, those are great, weren't they? Seeing real people in a video game was something.
And
Rise
it's,
of the
it's
Triad?
funny.
Yeah.
Like, I love that sort of B-movie charm it has. I don't know. That's probably a bad way of putting it. But, like, QuickTime events are never fun. Whenever I get a QuickTime
Did you not
event,
like
I sigh.
RE4?
I did, but I wouldn't be... When I think of
At the
RE4, I'm
time.
not like QuickTime events.
I think they've both kind of went out the pasture. I think is this one a tie, or
I
do you
think-
really like digitized graphics that much?
No, I like David Cage's QuickTime events because they're not just like press X at the right time. They are unique in a sense. So they do interesting things. And I
Form
think
a crab
I feel like
hand,
digitized
pull down all these
graphics were kind of a
buttons.
lie, because like again, Rise of the Triad. I think some light shooter games, like they tried to trick you into this FMV thing, and I think they never really paid off. And as much as Mortal Kombat looked interesting, I don't know
It
with the
fits
sprite
the
changes and
cheese.
stuff.
Going
So I
David
guess
Cage on this
David
one.
Cage,
Damn
QuickTime
it.
events. Who would have thought?
QuickTime events won something. We failed as a site.
Oh, here we go. Fatality. For Johnny Cage, going classic. It's the uppercut decapitation. I don't know if it has an official name. David Cage fatalities are nonsense left field endings.
Doesn't Johnny Cage have one where he like keeps uppercutting, like a new head appears and he just keeps
I
going?
think I watched the Mortal Kombat 1 fatality for this. I'm not sure actually if for 2 there's like babalities and friendships and all that crap, and I didn't look at 9 at all. I was going kind of old school here.
So repeat David Cage's
Nonsense left field endings.
nonsense left field endings.
I feel like David Cage's endings are more harmful, like more fatal, I guess.
Than
if you
being
will.
decapitated.
Well,
Interesting.
you know, depending on how you look at it. Like, fatalities in Mortal Kombat are kind of expected at this point, but I feel like every time a new David Cage game comes out, we're like, he's gonna get it, he's
the
gonna do
internet's
it.
trying to kill us.
And then he makes a shitty ending again,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's always awful.
Like a little unearned.
I
Yeah.
still like Fahrenheit.
When
It's
you're like,
snowing and the
when you're
internet's
like,
trying to kill you.
hey, we made this new Mortal Kombat character and they have fatalities. I'm like, yeah, they do.
Yeah.
So David Cage,
Yeah. As
man,
a
he has pulled ahead.
I'd
okay.
rather- yeah.
This one I think is maybe I don't know how the judges let this one in. This one's a little biased. This is based on facts. Knows David Bowie. Johnny Cage doesn't. David Cage does.
This is
Gotta
a
give it to
bullshit
David
question.
Cage. Gotta
I
give it.
gotta give it.
Gotta give it to him.
Wow. Life's work, greatest rival. I have Street Fighter for Johnny Cage, and for David Cage, I have both films and games.
Oh, so across everything he's done, this is his greatest rival.
Yes.
Yep. So is it
The entirety
Is
of
this- is
films
this
and
like-
games,
is
the
this like
canon, which would include Street Fighter.
Yeah, is this a thing
Or
where
Street Fighter.
we say like, you know, a hero is only as great as his villains? Is it that kind of thing where like
I like that.
are we ranking
You
how
make that up.
good the villain is compared to the arch nemesis? You know.
I feel like
I mean, it's
David
something
Cage,
to kind of strive against, right? How are you?
Yeah.
Gonna, how will you do better? Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like David Cage's greatest rival is himself.
I think we got to give this rivalry to David Cage. I think he's more conflicted. You know what I mean? I think Mortal Kombat doesn't really view Street Fighter as an enemy.
I think it absolutely does.
No, oh man, Boone is still just like, oh, we would love to make a Street Fighter cross Mortal Kombat game, and it's like but Ed, that'll never happen.
Wow.
Man.
Well, I'm gonna
feel
tally
bad.
up. I'm gonna tally up the vote. Okay. Okay. It's wow, 3-6. David Cage has won the cage match.
No, he didn't. How did he possibly just win that?
Like everything else David Cage has ever done, this really bums me out.
I lost track.
That was a simple button.
There were some like I was trying to like
Benjamin
throw him some
Button.
bones. I can't believe he came out on top in the end.
See, I thought the David Bowie thing would be his lone one.
gosh.
Wow.
I can't believe he just
even
beat Johnny
disqualifying David Bowie.
This
Back,
is
he did
totally
backup
appropriate.
vocals on Reflector, by the way. I just found out.
Who is?
David Bowie did background vocals on Reflector. Anyway, that was this week's Invisible Walls. For Marcus Beer, I am Ryan Stevens, and I'm probably looking into the wrong camera. Oh, no, I'm doing it right. Benjamin, thank you for joining us for the entirety of this episode. Kyle, maybe you can come on again and we can do stupid stuff and I can tell more lies about you.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Bye, everybody. Have a good weekend.
I'm amazed I got to stay the whole time.